Okay.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Another adventure on Energy of the Untamed Heart podcast. I am your host, Mielle Fox. My guest today is a dear friend, Suzanne Masland. We go way, way, way back with lots of stories. She's recently retired out of a very long career in health democracy, for lack of a better description. I'll let her fill in the blanks so I don't mess it up. But she has surfaced as a Reiki practitioner. And I'm just so excited to talk about this shift and this change and how her long-term career and what her new career feel like in terms of her personal growth, what she brings to the collective, how it's shifted her way of being, and all the goodness as we talk about walking yourself home to your heart. So without further ado, Suzanne, come on, girl.
Good
Welcome.
morning. So glad to join you.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah.
Tell me all the
S-
things.
Yeah. So I had a pretty long career in management. I worked in the health sector, education, a little bit in the legal field, and always thought I would retire at age 70. I'm the oldest child of seven and a Virgo, so I'm a pretty precise person in many ways. And of course, I love when plans get completely thrown out the window. So I was working as a district director for a local health department in Vermont when COVID struck. And I emphasize struck because for all of us who were working in both the healthcare field and, health maintenance and whatever, COVID really created havoc in many of our lives. Prior to that, I had loved my position, which was as district director, overseeing a staff, but more importantly, getting out in the community and engaging with community partners, which we did in person. And I love that. I'm an extrovert. When COVID hit, we were basically all told, do not go into your offices. Forget that you left your winter boots there and other exciting things. And essentially, my day became 10 to 12 hours of Zoom meetings. So it was during that time I was thinking, and the health commissioner had been honest with us and told us that we'd be doing that work for at least 3 years. And that wasn't my cup of tea. And so I started to think about, maybe I should retire sooner. And the guilt in me was, how can you retire from a health department when you have COVID, a world pandemic? And then my daughter called me, my 40-year-old daughter called me one night to announce that she was pregnant with my first and long-awaited grandchild. And I emailed my direct supervisor at the state level the next morning and said, guess what? I'm retiring in September. I'm going to be a grandmother. And that set off a whole range of thinking and feeling for me. I knew that I wanted to continue giving to people, but in a more holistic medium. I dreamt about what is it that I'd like to do. But in the meantime, I went out to California when my grandson was born, stayed for a couple months, and came back. And I had been receiving Reiki for a couple of years by the most amazing, wonderful practitioner. And she suggested that I get trained. And so I did. And I am a Reiki II practitioner. And I'd like to say, I guess I would say my specialty is Reiki for seniors. I have always known that seniors hold a great deal of wisdom and compassion and for some need. And so I also wanted to make it affordable. So what I do is I have a sliding fee scale for seniors age 60 and above, a very realistic and accessible fee scale. And I do these services through our local senior action center. And every couple of weeks, I go into a community room in our town and I hold about 3 to 5 Reiki sessions, and I absolutely adore it. It's heartfelt work. I feel blessed that I have the capability to do Reiki, and to be able to share it with other people is just phenomenal. At some point, I'd like to get my master's certification. But in the meantime, I'm just having a good time sharing that so-called expertise. But I really look at it as a gift. I also do Reiki out in Northern California when I go and visit my grandson. I stay out there for months at a time, and it's been fun to have sessions out there as well.
I think it's beautiful, and what I really love is so there are probably many listeners who are familiar with the term Reiki, but they may not really know really what is it and that there are different levels. You and I share the same mentor, and it's interesting. I don't use my certification on humans. I honestly, my time is so limited at the moment, but I really value the training and I value the experience and the capacity that should I need to use it for myself or anyone else, that I have that, and so that's really beautiful. But what I really love is that you are bringing your gift to the community and for a demographic of our community that oftentimes is pushed aside and or forgotten. And the reality is for many of
Mm.
us, and I love that you now put me in the senior category. I'm like, "What? What, 60 and above? What? Are you kidding me?" Yeah, so I guess I'm a senior now. Who knew, right? Who knew? For the listeners, yeah, I am
Well,
pushing 60 easily. But yeah, it's okay. It's all good. I just didn't call myself a senior before, but now I can officially. So there you go. But I do love there are many of our older folks that they either are unaware of what a service this can be for them and how it can really improve their well-being, how it can help them to find a better state of feeling a little more grounded. I think there are many of our older community that feel a little disconnected or dissociated based on what their living situation might be, where they are, what their economic situation might be. For the listeners, both Suzanne and I live in a very rural portion of the state. Funding is often difficult. And so I love that you are supported by the community through the meal center in that you share and offer your gifts at a sliding fee scale rate for people. If you would you mind just giving a brief descriptor of what you feel Reiki is to you and how that moves forward for clients in the collective, for the people who may not really understand what it is by what you do?
and so as a precursor, I went to the meal site a couple of times and did presentations and started to talk to people. I'd sit at tables during the meals and really engage them in what Reiki could do for them, and then offered free sessions for a couple of months so that people could experience it and then share it with other people at the meal site. So, Reiki is a form of energy work. It's essentially balancing our chakras in our body. We have seven chakras, and it's for the most part a hands off process. It's not like a massage. Occasionally, a Reiki practitioner will lightly put their hands on a chakra, but for the most part, it's hands off. And the process is it's twofold. You're balancing a person's energy, and you're also transporting some of your healing energy from your hands to their body. And one of the fascinating things about Reiki is that when I work on a person, in particular seniors who may have had knee replacement recently or surgery, I will usually detect that. And afterwards, we'll ask them, "How's your left knee doing?" And then they'll go on and tell me that they had knee replacement, didn't work. Their chakras, their body and my hands tell a story. And for people who've never had Reiki before, I think they're really quite surprised that you would know that there's something wrong with their left knee. But in essence, what that process does is those individuals will go and tell other people, I had Reiki, I never knew what it was, and here's what happened. And that's kind of what happened at the meal site. There were a couple of skeptics, and after they had Reiki and that happened, they talked a lot more on a positive note and personal note about what it did. So I think, and when I went through my own Reiki training, it's a very heartfelt and committed process. So for those of us who've gone through Reiki training know, you after you have your training and you're past the attunements, you make a commitment to do Reiki on yourself for 30 days, to journal your experiences, and in that process, you really do heal some of your own. It could be an early trauma experience. It could be something in your body that hasn't felt quite right, but it's an awareness of yourself so that when you're doing Reiki on a client, you're not passing any kind of bad energy or anything or misinterpreting things. But that process for me really helped me to become a more joyful person. It's hard to describe, but after my Reiki II training, I look at life in a completely different way. I'm, I'm a very analytical person, and sometimes I think that I let that override the potential joyfulness in life. And I am forever grateful that I received that training. I feel it's just appropriate that you would pass that on to other people.
Absolutely. I agree. The biggest gift is not the gift, it's the sharing of the gift. It's being open to receive that you may be the conduit for the gift, but the gift is really in being open to receive as well as to share it out so that others can receive what you have received. And when I think about my Reiki training, I really feel like I'm not doing necessarily the client is really self-healing through being open to having that life force energy that passes through us through these energy centers become a little less congested and more aligned. And as the provider practitioner, I feel, for me, I'm just speaking for my own personal experience, as an open conduit or channel to move that energy
A-
through. So I think for listeners,
Absolutely.
we go to Reiki practitioners. Even though I am a practitioner, I go to my own practitioner routinely, monthly, because
Yeah,
everybody
as
needs a
I do
tune
as
up.
well.
Everybody need a tune up. Life in itself, just life will kind of throw a wrench into the works, and things sometimes don't feel totally where they ought to or could be. So I absolutely see a regular practitioner, and it's very difficult, as you say, to completely put it into words like, oh, it's not like you suddenly, sprint down the road, but it's a really deeply centered, grounded feeling of, for me, it's a combination of a feeling of the calmness and the lightness, like the lightness of being, I guess I could describe it that way, when I feel aligned and kind of through or in flow with the energy versus something's got me kind of balled up, bound up. So I love that the capacity to be a Reiki practitioner for the collective, you don't have to have any particular background. You don't have to go to any preliminary program. Yes, you need some training, but it's open for everybody. And the beauty is that anybody and everybody could potentially not only benefit from receiving, but the world will benefit from those who are willing to share and give. So it's really an amazing energy conduit for us, and for, of course, people who follow me here in the podcast, my whole gig, as everybody knows, is how do we find our way back home to our heart? How do we remove the blind spots or the barriers that we've built and created around our heart, which translated is what are the things that go on that, whether it's physical or emotional, may be, shall I say, clogging up our energy movement through our being. And of course, again, in terms of the science and the quantum and the whole thing, being 99.999% energy, we hold energy in ourselves, in our body, in our being. Yeah, we're a soul, we're a spirit, but we live in a human body, and that human body, just like your vehicle, needs a tune up. if you don't take care of it and you don't tune it up, it doesn't run very good. So I love that you step in to offer your services, not only for some of our clients who may have experienced a physical event, but there's the side benefit or the additional benefit that it helps with the emotional memories that are stored in our cells, the movement of that, whether
Hmm.
it's actually spoken or not spoken, by moving that energy, you're moving, you're moving pieces of experience. And I really think that's just it's a real gift. It really, really is that many people can benefit from. So, and I love that you have noticed that
That's
your
right.
30-day self-care offered you a different perspective and view of how you move through the world. You and I are fairly similar, very analytical. We like to dot our I's and cross our T's. What I found is when we spend too much time upstairs in our head, analyzing, calculating, computing, dotting and crossing, sometimes we get out of sync or out of resonance with what's really running the show, which is your heart space, which is your non-ego mind space, which is the you that is you. Because quite frankly, we all come from the same. And so I love that you offer a service to help people return to that place of wholeness, wellness, peace, comfort. Yeah, it's a beautiful service. It's really pretty amazing. If there was something that
Well,
you could say, "Wow, this is what came to me when I did this," what would you share?
uh, when I did Reiki, I think that one of the things that I learned in the process is that oftentimes we don't know what's going on in our head or our heart. And the Japanese think of dis, 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 disease as dis-ease.
Dis-ease.
And I love that because that is essentially what may be going on in our body. There is something emotionally trapped, so to speak, that needs to be heard. So I would say Reiki has also taught me to look at things with a very open heart. As an analytical person, I could be judgmental and was more, I think, in my younger years. I'm also a senior, and I really believe that what Reiki does is it opens up more light into your life.
Yes. I think
It's
that's accurate.
yeah. And it also releases some of your fears. I was oftentimes fearful about what my next steps would be. And in retirement, I knew that I wanted to do some kind of part-time work. And, I've taken on all kinds of new professional interests. I also do professional gardening. I've been working in a greenhouse for the last month and have learned a lot about transplanting plants and what this flower will do or this herb will do. And for every time I step out of my comfort zone, I'm adding to that wealth of knowledge and happiness. So I've learned to not be fearful and just say, "Well, I'll try that." It'll probably be good, and if not, I've learned something from it.
Absolutely. That is just such an enormous piece to start to unravel all of the things that we've wrapped up our whole lives. That curious mind, that willingness. I call it like the child's mind. Hey, I'll try that. And if it doesn't work, well, okay, whatever. I think as adults, we lose a little piece of that as we go through the grind of life. We just get in the rut. We don't necessarily get out of our comfort zone. We don't grow. We don't allow ourselves the space to be creative and to see what might this look like? So your goal of, okay, I'm leaving the corporate world and yes, I want to give back, but I also want to find something, a way that feels joyful to me. And what has shown up for you because you've been open and spacious to receive the essence of what you're asking for without the and let me dictate what it needs to look like. So having that openness while still holding the vision, I think that is pretty key to seeing how fun and creative life can be, and that you were willing and open to take a suggestion, and that you acted on the suggestion, which means that, there's that little piece inside us. We call it our inner guidance system, our intuition, follow your gut, our higher self. There's lots of words and terms for it, but when it feels right, it feels right. And when it doesn't, that too. And so it sounds to me, your directions of Reiki and gardening, I mean, what a match made in heaven right there, is really allowing you to really return to the who you are at the core of who you are. Really beautiful.
That's right.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So, in addition to visiting our local community, if people wanted to reach out to find you, can you let us know what's the best way? And do you travel? And do you do Zoom version Reiki? Is it only in person? All the things.
For local folks in the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont, you can check out the Danville, Vermont Senior Action Center website. It's an awesome senior center. They offer all kinds of classes and presentations. And somewhere in their page, you will find a link to what I do at the senior center. I travel, I serve I serve everybody. So seniors is sort of my heartfelt niche, but I also do Reiki on all age groups. And I have a travel program. I have my amazing zero gravity chair and my stool and a heated pad. And I do travel. If folks wanted to get a hold of me, I'm happy to share my phone number. It's 802-698-3252. And I advertise once in a while on Front Porch Forum in Vermont. It's great when I visit California in the Tahoe area. I've developed a short list of clients there, and I do animal Reiki. I love doing animal Reiki on my grand doggies. When my grandson doesn't want to go to sleep and I'm laying down with him for a nap, I'll do Reiki. He is so accustomed to it and must know that it makes him sleepy. The last time I was visiting and I held up my hands, he said, "No, Nana, stop."
I'm not ready for my nap. No, Nana, stop. How adorable. That's wonderful. Oh, and tell me before we depart, I know the name of the business, or the name of your Reiki practice of business is called Kiomi. Can you just share with us why you chose that name and what it means to you? Because I know your story, but I'd love for the listeners to know the story because it's really beautiful.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, as some people know, Reiki is a Japanese art. Kiyomi, the meaning of Kiyomi is calm, serene, beauty, and restoration. And also, I had a pen pal when I was a child whose name was Kiyomi. And my husband has a very wonderful, heartfelt connection when he was actually a baby with a woman named Kiomi. So it holds a lot of meaningfulness for me. I didn't pick my business name for a couple of years because it just didn't come to me. And one day in a Reiki session, I also get Reiki on a regular basis from our mentor, and the name just popped into my head. And so I went home and I Googled it and found the meaning and said, there it is.
So as you well know, I don't call all these things coincidences. I call them synchronicities. I call them messages from the divine, messages from source, from spirit, from God, from the universe. And when you tell your story, I'm just over here nodding my head like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So even when she
Mhm.
was a pen pal, universe was like, hey, Kiyomi's going to show up in your life again. Just thought we'd let you know. And here it is. And I love it. I love it. It's just perfect for you. It's perfect for what you represent, what you bring to the world. And you are such a bright light for those of us here in the Northeast Kingdom. you and I go way, 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 way back, and it fills my heart to see you living out your best life in retirement with your grandson and sharing what you love with people, the gardening and the Reiki. I mean, it just fills my heart. So I thank you for your time coming on. So beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Miel, and thank you for being one of those bright lights in my life
Well,
from
thank
way
you.
long ago.
You just never know. But again, why I really feel people come into our lives, just there's just no doubt in my mind that there's, whether we know it in the moment or not, there's a reason. There's just a
Oh,
reason.
absolutely.
Whether you're learning the lesson, giving the lesson, whatever the thing is, there's a reason that paths cross and that people spend time in each other's lives. And I'm just so grateful because you really made such an impact for me over several decades for sure. Just you're an inspiration and I love it. And I love you. So
Thank
Sunday,
you.
and for the
It's been a
listeners,
pleasure.
I'll put this in the show notes so folks know how to get a hold of you. And I'm kind of giggling because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so Northeast Kingdom. We're like, oh, here's my phone number. You just give me a call, no problem. And I'm thinking, oh, I
Oh,
wonder if
yeah.
she knows this is going out nationally, but it's all good. The people who need you will find you, and it's perfect.